Now, it's the 8th of September. Statutories are going. KRA wants their money. How many things do the KRA want? Pay. KRA also wants housing. KRA wants NITA. KRA wants what else? All those things gone. In a few days, NHIF wants. Next, NSSF wants. Guy.
Only
who doesn't want? Your landlord wants.
Children are there like chicks.
Yeah, university reporting university.
University,
you have done very well. They're saying
and now
university wants.
First.
Tunafanya kazi gani?
Go to hospital. Universal health coverage is not yet working. If your card is not working,
hey,
my God.
So, how is your pay slip looking? How is your pocket looking?
Which one?
Well, let's discuss it. And we are joined in the studio by FCPA Erastus Kwaka Omolo, who is a managing partner at Crowe, Erastus and Company CPAs. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you.
That is the hot seat of the situation room.
Oh, very good. I like hot seats.
Very good. Karibu sana.
Ongeza moto.
Tuongeze moto. Siti.
Yes, please.
Please give Erastus the day's proverb.
Our final proverb from the country of Gabon, otherwise known as the Gabonese Republic.
Make noise. Make noise.
Well, Make Noise has been given permission to travel abroad for for health treatment.
Freudian. I don't even think it was Freudian.
No, health.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. The feathers of a dead eagle will not cover you all over.
The feathers of a dead eagle will not
Cover you.
All over.
All over.
Yes.
What do you make of that proverb?
Because when it's dead, it is flat. It can't be stretched. So it is bure kabisa.
So what's the deeper meaning?
The deeper meaning, it can have many, many other meanings. But to be useful, needs to be alive.
Nice one. To be useful, be alive.
Actually, one would argue that the dead give you the much needed comparison of understanding the benefits of being alive. Yes.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yes.
You're a member of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya.
Yes.
Why did they come up with this thing called FCPA, and what does it stand for?
I normally make people laugh in seminars that once it stands for being foolish because you think you have come to the end of accounting, but you haven't. Because learning is continuous, learning is progressive, and learning is new every day. And so, I normally say the F means you
Foolish.
Bure kabisa. But in the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya is given to those in recognition of those who have given outstanding service to the profession in Kenya. Yeah, I got mine many years ago, almost 20 years.
So the F then stands for fellow.
Fellow.
Okay.
Of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya. And of course, humbly, it is the highest you can ever get.
So it's an honor.
It's an honor.
It's like senior counsel.
Yeah, senior counsel. But based on achievement. It's not a handout. It's not a mandazi.
You don't, it's not some exam you pass.
No. After you have finished all your exams, you must have served for a number of years and not less than 10. Not less than 10 post-qualification, not sitting around doing nothing. No, doing some serious things.
Serious accounting.
Like for me, I developed accounting rules, the conceptual framework for accounting and audit rules for non-profit organizations in Kenya. So that was part of the recognition. Number two, I then served in the Public Finance and Tax Committee for a number of years. Then I also served in the Professional Standards Committee. And by the way, I still serve in the Public and Tax Committee, Public Finance. And those are things that deals with fiscal issues like the yearly budgets and things like that, and also working with others to help develop ideas that we then take to Treasury every year to consider in terms of taxation, but not just taxation, by the way. It is also to do with what else can be done to improve the economy. Sometimes it is not tax. Sometimes it is government policy on particular issues and things like that. So those are some of the things that I did. Yeah, and in my case, I think I was one of the youngest people who were given a fellowship in terms of the number of years. Yeah, when it was looked at, they said, "Oh, you don't have to complete 10. You have
done your
yeah. It was
you've
just
played your part.
It was 9.
Congratulations.
Something, yeah.
So who are the people who decided this?
In the council,
Yes.
there is a team that reviews those. But you first of all make an application. Then you are also recommended by other fellow practitioners, at least 2. Yeah, and then it goes to a team that then evaluates whether what you allege to have done seems credible. Yeah, and then once that is agreed, there are some which are rejected, by the way.
How large is that complement of people who...
Of people?
Yes.
I'm not sure, but it's made up of council members largely. Yeah.
And how many of them also have the FCPK?
Some of them don't, by the way. No, some don't.
Okay.
Yeah. Up to the time I was getting, we were only 126 of us in the whole country. Yeah, whole country.
Right.
But now, of course, there are many others since mine is long ago.
Okay.
So you sit in that crucial committee,
Yeah.
or that advises even the National Treasury
Yeah.
on how to collect revenue and also how they can better manage money in the country. So you're responsible for this tax paying that we have.
Partially, yes.
Yeah?
Partially, yes.
Why?
Partially.
It's painful. I don't know whether your own staff have told you.
They have.
Now, there are very many pains. Now, let's go through those pains. Okay?
Yeah.
So, new taxes have come in today. Omtata's case before the Supreme Court is going to be receiving the decision of the Supreme Court on whether to return or revert to the suspension of the implementation of this Finance Act. But the reason why all this hue and cry is out there is because of what it's doing to people's take-home amount. You've worked for a month, you know this is what you expect as an income, and then there are new deductions that have come in. And on top of that, as you're going to spend, there are new taxes that have come in that have driven up the cost of living. Just give us an overview of that.
Yeah, I mean, that is a fact. And I will be careful not to stray too much in what could be sub judice. But talking about the in particular ways is not intrusive, as it were, into the law. The truth is, when people take less home, and suddenly, it is not good. For example, the increase in tax rates and bands, regardless of how much you're earning, the fact that you are told it is talked about in June, and in July you are told start
Immediately.
all my plans to build for my mother house will collapse. School fees for my children, the loans I have borrowed from my cooperative, from my bank, and even borrowed from my friends, or even Fuliza, immediately is attacked. And me as a human being, I might also have certain habits that I want to maintain. That is attacked. But on the more positive side, we have investments. I plan to invest in this. I plan to do this. That is also attacked. Then, as a human being, by the way, Mr. Muga here will agree. I have made promises to people. At the end of this month, I'll help you with something, whether it is kidogo or kikubwa. Now I can't. Then immediately I become a liar. But I also feel bad about myself that I said something that I'm not able to do.
Yeah.
I was to give something in the church. Now I can't do it because somehow my trajectory has been interfered with. Changes in personal taxation should take place from the beginning of the next financial year.
Okay.
Now,
Which one is next?
that would have been, I mean, for PAYE purposes, it is January to December. So if we are changing a law in June, I should be saying it will start from the 1st
Of January.
next year.
Okay.
Now that gives us time to absorb the shock. Number 2, to reorganize myself. Because tax in Kenya, by the way, is not high as people normally speculate. And it is easy to bash the government about high taxes. The rate of tax is not that high. Other countries are terrible. But whenever I say this, even on television, not in this particular one, but in others, we have been masquerading as a financial advisor or something. People tell me, "Oh, Erastus, but you are too sympathetic to the government." I say, no, but this is reality. Because I don't only do this in Kenya, but I also do it. I sit on a global board of global accountants covering 150 countries. Crowe Global. So I have a fairly good view of the global tax trends, not just Kenya. But people normally bash me. Let me go back to that point that, but in those other countries, you pay high tax, yes, but you have health, you have good roads, you have everything. But I can assure you, I mean, I was in Paris just 2 months ago for one of our global conferences. And once you get off the main road and you get to the byways, you also find some rough roads. So that is reality. Yeah. So if you judge the government on the basis of Nairobi Expressway, you would give it a very high rating. But if you judge it on the basis of the Vichokoro something Kona, you would give it a bad rating.
Yeah.
So to ourselves, we owe it to our country. That is number 1. Number 2, we also have a right to hold the government accountable and say that you are not using my tax well. The biggest problem, by the way, friends, is not the amount of money we collect. It is how we spend it. Because it doesn't matter how much money you pour into a hole, into a bucket, but it has a hole. It will always run out. It is what we call a bure kabisa type of approach to a very serious thing. Because you must contain the way you spend it.
Yeah.
Now, if the rate of spending is higher than the rate of arrival of money in the kitty, you will always have problems. And the easiest thing is to turn to you and me and tax me more.
And tax more.
Yeah.
And then
the problem is that it breeds discontent in the citizenry. And when people begin to feel frustrated, misused, overused, or denied certain things, then of course they don't become very happy. I don't know if that is helpful.
It is. It is. You're saying we don't have a collection problem. We have an expenditure problem.
Yeah.
And obviously, many people like yourselves have told our government that.
Yeah.
Have told governments that. Have told the National Treasury that. That, you know what? It's the way it's on our expenditure side of our budget that
Yes.
we have a problem.
Yes.
Not on the revenue raising side of our budget. Okay, what do they say?
They admit. Because nobody has ever challenged the former Auditor General, Eddie Ouko, when he said 30% of what we collect goes into corruption. And corruption comes in two modes. There is the budgeted corruption, which means that we plan in advance that this thing we are going to do next year or the following year, okay, it is going to cost so much money, 1 shilling.
Yeah.
Make it 5. And so it goes into the budget and it's approved as 5.
As 5.
So an auditor like me, purporting to be an FCPA, coming to audit, I will say, oh, you budgeted for 5? Did you spend 5? Yes.
That's it.
That is good. And I use a colored pen to do that. And I give you a clean bill of health. But the corruption was budgeted. Then all the mechanisms of hiding it then takes place. And by the way, that is why there have been a kind of flurry of laws trying to deal with that covering bit. Whether they will succeed, of course, is something else. We can talk about it another day. Now, you have the unbudgeted corruption, where we create emergencies. Oh, we don't have this. This is going wrong. Buy it. And because it is an emergency, under the public procurement laws, you are allowed to take certain shortcuts, provided it is within a certain framework. And so you end up buying something for 20 shillings that you should have bought for 5 shillings.
5 bob.
Yeah.
Or you lease it from somebody.
Yeah.
You know, we need to print one.
Yeah. You know, this is quick.
Ile yetu imeisha tona. Na watu wamepiga line hapa nje. You know what I'm talking about.
Because you create a sense of emergency, isn't it?
Yeah.
So from what you're saying, then you can have as many taxes as you need or as you want. That means next year, 2024, they could decide, all right, well, we need more. But if you have a hole in the bucket, it's not going to be able to solve the problem.
It won't solve that.
So are we saying that there's a possibility that even these ones that are choking Kenyans already, choking Kenyans at the point, because we started off by saying, look, that means that certain things cannot be done. When it's been introduced this month, next month, whatever you plan for, there's going to be a dip in that. And we're saying that it's being done to cover up certain holes, whether it's budgeted, whether it's of emergency status, whatever it is, it's covering up a hole. If you don't deal with the hole, you're going to have the problem. So there's a possibility that more could come in another year.
Yes, that is for sure. That, take it to the bank.
But then what impact does it have on the population that you're taxing? Like you started by saying, you know, it's too sudden. It has impact on one individual because of their own budgeting and planning purposes. What does it do to the collective that you want to get this money from?
Let me put it this way. Tax and fiscal policies that deal with how public expenditure and revenue is dealt with, they have what we call a transmittive effect. In other words, what I do today transmits the effect to others. For example, the increasing of VAT.
On fuel.
Course, we know there's been a lot of politics around that. But assuming it continued on the original trajectory, what happens is that it affects those who use the fuel at household level and also at commercial level. So it transmits that effect to others. And one must ask themselves, if it is going to do this now, what effect will this tax have 5 years from now? Does it have the effect of drawing money away from the public? And if it does that, what impact does it have on employment? Because all these things have got consequences. And you will find that it might not be visible to the ordinary eye. But you and me, who do some work, will say, it's no longer possible to employ 10 people. Let me do with 8. And even if those 2 losing jobs were my real brothers whom I, took to, help me.
And I have to support them in the...
It doesn't matter. Those are 2 Kenyans who have lost a job, regardless of who they are. So, and then me, who has lost this job, I also had a Samba person helping me at home. That person has to go. So there is a lot of indirect effect. And the catch is, when you now multiply all those from a country point of view, you have many, many people who are affected. So the transmittive effect of decisions must be considered. Short-term revenue, we want more money.
Yeah.
But you need it, and you justify. Politicians will never fail to justify what they need the money for. Never. They will always find a reason.
Good reason.
Yeah. Yeah. But eventually, the impact on society and on the economy can be disastrous. So certain policies, by the way, you can't hang on them. But you see, unless the public comes up and says no, because governments all over the world only listen to noise. Nice things.
They will not hear.
They just say, kwenda huko. Yeah, and that is not revolutionary. Yeah, it is real, and I have seen it even from the global board I sit on. That is what is happening even in the so-called developed countries.
Some level of pushback.
A level of pushback
from the citizens.
And also the knowledge of the citizenry, so that they are able to say no, but I can say no to this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the deductions are already being effected this month. Some of them being backdated. Okay. So like you said, it has an immediate and direct impact on people.
Yeah.
What can we do?
What we can do is nothing, by the way.
Nothing means don't pay.
No, nothing means you don't do anything.
Okay.
Don't go on the streets. Don't riot. Just obey. And if there is a problem, blame your MP.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then?
And tell your MP, you didn't consult me. And the housing levy is just one of them. The public gave their views. And it's shocking that the public views did not carry the day. Yeah. So that public participation thing was a PR exercise. Number 2,
it was an exercise in futility.
As it was going on, we were told not even a comma will be changed. So which rubbishes the entire public participation thing. If you have already made a decision, then why waste my time and your time and everybody's time? Yeah. But you already know the decision you're going to make.
But then what lessons then do we draw from that?
Quality, the quality of MPs. And that politics can also be terribly bad. Yeah.
But then, FCPA, you said Kenya is actually not heavily taxed. It's the same thing that even the president said, look, looking at our tax to GDP ratio, it's low. We still have wiggle room. We can raise it. So let's raise it slowly and get to, was it 25% by 2027 or something like that? Right now we are at, what are we now?
About 15.
15.
Yeah.
And you're raising it to about 17. So he says, he has argument on saying, look, we have capacity at least to raise it by 2% in this year. So we can then develop better, faster.
Right.
And he has said it to us. Can we argue against that?
Yeah, that argument has got difficulties in terms of explaining to the public what the truth is. And personally, I have explained it several times, even in the media, that the difference between what we have now and what would be the ideal for the country
Yeah.
is made up of tax cheats. And it is not made up of lack of increase in taxes. I don't know if that is coming out.
But I don't get it.
That there are so many people who are not paying taxes who should be.
Okay.
Now, so to mitigate against those who create the gap in revenue, you don't go back to those who are compliant, you and me, and tax them more. You are not solving the problem. Is that now much
Yes,
better?
now it makes sense.
Essentially, you're taxing those who have shown a willingness to pay taxes. So you feel fine. Since you've shown me the willingness to
Let's
pay,
get some more.
let's get some more from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet there are people who don't have a history of paying taxes, but somehow that same energy isn't being applied to getting them to actually pay.
Correct.
So would compelling them to pay then be the solution? Because there's a reason. Well, okay.
Yeah.
There is the situation where they are not paying. Whatever the reason is, could be very many across
Many,
board.
yeah.
Isn't it? So would the solution be
Yeah.
compelling these individuals, these
Yeah.
companies, whomever they be,
Yes.
to pay so that it then reduces the burden across board?
Correct. And I need to add something to that. VAT has been a major culprit in terms of taking away our tax revenue through a myriad of avenues. Those who think, imagine, and know they have protection, you don't tax them. If you tax them, KRA, by the way, is just a policy implementer. But now the person who should be enforcing it will tell you, wachana na huyo. VAT has been a major conduit of tax laws. But I must say that under the new act, the Finance Act 2023, the new efforts in there, for example, of introducing electronic tax invoices and then the data management system is going to improve it. But again, it will only do so, friends, if we don't bring in politics and attack it. I will talk a little bit
How has it
about-
been used
about
before?
the-
As a
before, we used to have what you call the ETR machine.
Yeah.
An ETR machine is what you would call a half measure. Why? I can buy two and I don't register it. I don't register one. So me, the innocent buyer, when you come,
I
I
give
give you
you
a slip.
an unregistered.
Is that all you're looking for? Slip.
Unataka tu itia receipt.
Karatasi.
Eh.
Yeah. And there I go. I am innocent. Who is not innocent is the shopkeeper.
Right.
It means that all that tax revenue, even what you have charged me, you are going to keep it. You will not send it to KRA. So the ETR had several shortcomings, the machine. But what has now been introduced, by the way, is really good. And I commend even the policy implementers and the thinkers behind it. But again, only if it is not attacked. I have to say that 1,000 times.
Could you talk about this new system
Yeah,
that seems to have replaced the ETR?
yeah. The electronic tax system, electronic tax invoice management system, ETIMS, very, very interesting. And this is the way it works. If you, supposing I'm a shopkeeper or whatever kind, I'm an auditor also, you have come to buy service from me,
Yeah.
and I'm billing you, I am supposed to send that invoice, the details of that,
Yeah.
to a machine at KRA. Giving my details, income tax pin and whatever is in there, then the KRA machine will keep that information and send me a number, a unique number. Immediately, it happens very quickly.
Immediately I generate the invoice.
Yeah. So that new number generated by the KRA system is what I will now call the invoice number or the e-TIMS number.
Okay.
And this is where it makes the difference, and it's a game changer in terms of tax collection. The person I've given the invoice to will not be allowed to deduct what they have paid me at the end of the year if the invoice I gave did not go through the e-TIMS system.
So they must also key in the same number.
They must key in the same number. And if any of the numbers become different for any reason, that invoice will be invalidated.
Right.
It's a game changer.
Yeah. So it then means, like in the old receipting system, where a receipt they could have 100 receipts with the same number. Now, this unique number that is generated completely obliterates that. It's completely unlikely. But I was thinking as you're speaking, given that the people who import, is it ETR or ERT?
ETR.
Yeah, ETR machines, okay, are known. What prevented KRA from the very onset to ensure that every machine that comes into the country, because the purpose for which it was used was the same, was registered with them? What prevented them? So that it doesn't matter who you are. The moment you buy that machine and you activate it, you activate it at KRA.
Correct. Now, what happens is that those who imported those machines and were importing the machines, now, by the way, it's going to be some electronic waste, debris. Yeah, people are wondering what to do with them. In fact, there are talks of, say, exporting them to Tanzania as used machines and so on, so that they can, But you see, let me go back to the nicer point. Once you had imported the machine, you do it in bulk. At the port, they are just imports. But it is only at the point you start, I buy it, and you buy it, that it was getting registered. Not at the point of entry.
Okay.
The same thing, by the way, is happening with mobile phones. There have even been certain talks, advising the government. I remember, when Governor Gladys Wanga was the chair of the
finance
committee. The thing is, mobile phones, if you registered them at the point of entry, as mobile phones, not as a weight import, which is, you have had exporters complaining about that. Was it last week? The thing is, then you capture all the mobile phones in the country. So you should register it, charge a small amount. It doesn't have to be big, but at least now you know serial this of this particular phone, and I don't know which one advertises with you. I would have mentioned the names.
Came into the company, into the country, and is in operation.
Is in operation, or is still held on this particular shop on
hasn't
whatever
been sold.
street, Gingadinga Street in Kisumu or something, until when it becomes active, pop, it gets into the system.
You can see,
In that way, the government would have collected a lot of money. And it is free advice that a great friend of mine gave, and I took him and I said, let's discuss this. This is a way of raising revenue without having to attack my pocket again.
What would be difficult about it? Because usually the acceptance of such things, it's difficult, it might be expensive to have the gadgets because it's technology that is required for some of these things, etc., etc. What would be the, the no to that.
About.
Yes.
Because of vested interest. Yeah, those things are not the ordinary mwananchi on the streets. Yeah. And also, it would have blocked, because it would have also served a security issue. So that there's no way you can hide with a phone just because.
The government already knows this particular IMEI number is in the country.
Yes.
Right.
And once you buy it, then knows that it's Ndu who bought it.
Yeah.
And a member of our church is very clear about it, that there is technology to track that. From the word go, from the time it enters the country. And then there is also the technology at the moment available for a person willing to use it, that you can switch me off.
From far.
From far. I don't have to even know where you are.
Frederick Kuria is saying, Erastus, you are advocating a police state.
Ni sawa tu. But I'm talking finance. Yeah.
Because jalipa tax ya nyumba.
But surely, can the communication authority not do that?
Right now?
Yes, as we speak. Do they have the ability to do that or not?
No.
They cannot switch off the signal that Safaricom and all these people
Signals, not the phone.
Yeah, but if you switch off the signal, the phone won't work.
But you are switching off many.
What I'm saying is, the state to disable you from communicating already exists. That's what I'm trying to say. It exists.
No law.
And taking a revenue objective, although you are solving also a security issue there.
Yes.
But a revenue objective is solved.
Is immediately.
Yeah. And and that particular technology, by the way, can be extended also to ward off advertisements from outside the country. That robs people like a Snadad group of revenue, and all the others of revenue, because they are advertising outside the normal channels. And I know that, we have digital tax, which has been introduced, and other things, which is already doing a great job, by the way. If we have time, I can say a little about that. But the whole idea is that you want revenue for the country.
So by doing that,
Yeah.
would you be addressing what you said? The people who are not paying tax, would they now get into the bracket?
You will. You will, because at least you'll be able to know that Erastus exists.
Yeah.
And he has this particular number. And so on and so on and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not in any intrusive way. There are all these things about data protection, privacy laws, and so on. But my privacy law cannot override the country's requirement when it comes to certain things. It is not as if my privacy is being invaded. Yeah. No.
Do you advocate for more and more people to be on this all-powerful tax grid? Do you think that's a good idea?
All-powerful?
Tax grid. Should everybody be on the grid when it comes to paying taxes? All right. Everybody should, isn't
everybody.
it? And it is actually possible to get people on the grid.
It is possible.
Isn't it?
It
right?
is possible.
So would it make sense to then peg a particular service that is required by everybody, and that is what would then see movement, payments, health services, government services otherwise?
Yeah.
Kind of like a social security number, which is what maybe what was that thing that people were trying to say? I can't even remember.
Which one?
Uduma.
Thank you.
Uduma number.
Yes. So what you do essentially is that number, it has everything to do with everything that you do.
Right.
Wouldn't that be one way to then be able to say, okay, let's have more people get on, if it was actually used the correct way?
Right.
That if you're going to access certain services, we can see your history in terms of what you've been doing, and if we're asking you to contribute a little bit here and there, many more people then can actually, but then it requires so many things to be done at the same time. The bad manners that you talk about need to be out the window, and making sure that there's implementation of all these things so that they can run concurrently. But to have more people on the grid essentially would solve these problems that we're talking about so much more, so much so that come September, people are not crying like, oh my God, this tax is actually here. If we had more people on, but then it seems to me is that we're not ready to actually do the little bit of work in the interim to get more people. We complain and cry. Government cries every day. Not everybody's paying taxes. But do you think that enough has been done to widen the pool?
Not enough. Not enough. I've just given you the example of the phone avenue. Even just by doing only, even if it was just 50 shillings. It is known that on average, Kenyans change phones every 6 months. It is also known that on average, about 2 million phones get, you replace it for one reason or another.
Sold in the country.
Yeah, and so on. And those statistics and indicators are there. So, if we did our things well, we will be able to get more revenue. But you know what, by the way, I need to add, to support such a system, you need a justice system behind it which works. If the justice system does not work properly, you will still have problems. And I need to elaborate that before you ask me the next question. Good systems need good people behind them to operate effectively. So I can have a good law, but if the implementers of that law are corrupt, or for any reason are unable to fulfill their duties correctly, then I need it to be supported also by a police system that can arrest, prosecute without bribery. And I need a court system. That's why I said I will elaborate. That works together to see that the welfare of the country is what I'm dealing with. I'm not dealing with so-and-so because I know him or because I don't know him. The welfare of the nation must be at the top of our minds as we make these decisions.
Right.
So you can bring more people in, but if the system that supports that is malfunctioning or dysfunctional, deliberately or out of lack of knowledge or lack of unwillingness to do the right thing, it will suffer. But you know what? We have to start somewhere.
We've got to do something.
We cannot give up.
You know, Brother Erastus, you are right. But what I'm hearing you say is you are socialized in an era when people not only had those values, but they believed in them and they practiced them. Okay? We're in an era of serious moral disengagement. So even, as you say correctly, with all these systems, when people are morally disengaged, their driving ethos has nothing to do with what they know is right.
Yes.
It's what is expedient at that particular moment in time. And damn the consequences. Now, I am not saying there's a solution. I'm simply saying this is where we are. But why what you're saying is important? Because it provides a compass. It tells you, okay, look, you may be disengaged, but actually the compass should be in this direction. This is what ought to happen if we want this sort of eventuality. Because I look at the immediacy, or rather the ethos of immediacy that we currently have, where immediate and constant short-term gratification is the norm. When you talk about consequences, one thinks of the immediate, and they don't see the immediate consequence. You might get arrested, but I have not been arrested. So you might go to jail. But I know people who have stolen more money and they're walking free, and I can even point to you. So the discussion is one that must continue, and pointing to the fact that just because the current norm involves that disengagement, it doesn't make it right.
It doesn't make it right.
No.
And we have to start somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah. We have to start somewhere because Kenya is bigger, larger, and will always be older than all of us. Always. Until the day of Christ when it stops. But for the time being, it will always
be all that.
no matter what office you are in, there is always what we call end. What has got a beginning
Must end.
must end.
Just as you said, that this ETIM system could work if it's not attacked. What are these political and other risks?
Around items. Because I'm in a position of power and influence, you attempt to tell me that these 10 million shillings I paid out cannot be deducted. Are there chances that I will be fired? Are there chances that I will be told, you are a useless employee, you will not get promoted? Or you are a noisemaker. I know of a situation where somebody was transferred from a particular company, big, huge company, international. And when he started to straighten things, the boss told him, I'm hearing a lot of noise from your department. He said, which noise? No, there are noises, complaints. And he was removed, by the way, from that particular position.
Because of the noise?
Yeah, because of the noise. The noise was people are walking in with envelopes and, this contract and that contract, and it was daily work, is contract. And you are not taking the envelopes. Kwani wewe ni nani?
Oh, then...
That's the noise.
That was it.
That was it.
Hey, Erastus, I want to thank you very much for joining us today. This has been a very, very illuminating conversation. Come again soon. Let's talk about this and understanding our tax and our tax burden.
Yeah.